I think that's why I started with this, because it sets a precedent of whether we're gonna fund.
Oh, okay,
It's not being broadcast. though.
okay.
I mean, similar for home, that they have opportunities to go out. I want to incentivize people to go out and to look for grants, work with community organizations like Rotary. Um, And so, I mean, if you look at home, I think that's, they have shown their ability to raise funds, to work with community organizations. And I think they can do that for the majority of their requests. So the only thing that I was, I would, look at with home is that $5,000 to deal with winter shelter costs. And I would say the second part is for us to start working with them on a strategic plan on shelter.
Let's get the special games thing over with first. Go to home.
Well, I didn't think we were gonna do this. I thought we were gonna take some more time after hearing. but,
Well,
uh,
I'll put it this way, if there's something you don't want to vote on right now,
But it does set a precedent because we got more that they're asking us money for the first time. How many of those do we have that we haven't given money to before?
just this one.
And
Really? I thought there was,
I think it's.
Oh,
also-
no, also Birchman
yeah,
Medical Center.
And the other precedent is that we're gonna give people what they ask for. I think that there's a lot of cash on hand. There's some organizations that don't have a very large donation from the community. And I feel like that's something that needs to be worked on from that organization. As a business owner, you'll, like you said, use the vacuum, you'll fill the vacuum if it's that so important. And we're also talking about how this reflects the budget. It's using the taxpayer money, and I love your quote, Steve. I don't feel like we should be putting things into donations in where essentially for the taxpayer. They should be making some of these choices. So going back to special games, I think they will do a great job. Holly's very passionate. And I think she'll be successful, whether she's got city funds or not. But right now, when I think of this, I think of how are we going to fund our employees and give them the step raises and the pay scale that we've been looking at, talking about on Friday.
well, part of the reason that we're waiting is because we're going to see where we're at.
That's
With
true.
all that, and at that point, we'll have a goal that we need to be at with charitable, I mean, with nonprofits. So right now, we don't have that number. We don't know what we're shooting for. I mean, I'm with you. This is gonna be a big deal when we start, I think.
I'd rather back this in after we figure out what we need or what we have.
I don't mean to kick the can down the road, but we did say that we were gonna get everything together. See,
You're right.
Well, I think also part of it was that we didn't want to make decisions in haste. There's a lot of emotion right here. I mean, these people are passionate. I wanted to stand up and shake everybody's hand and say thank you,
and
because they all
good.
deserve it.
I mean, they do.
But
All right, let's figure out what we could be the week of the 31st through the 4th, I think it is.
I'm gonna be pretty hard nosed on some of these.
So do
just for
you,
that
I mean,
reason.
are you thinking you just want to go case by case? I mean, and not say,
I don't think it's appropriate to just go, we're cutting 50% across the board. The reason for that is because you look at, use the home example versus special games. Home is providing a service that our officers would be doing if home wasn't doing this. The other one, families in crisis, took 120 calls from our officers last year. They're providing a service, and even with them, I looked at them and I thought, fine, you know, they've got you know, I'll give you an example in them. When I was writing this down, my recommendation was that we help out with shelter essentials in the 24-hour crisis line. There's the other things they wanted was $2,000 for homeless prevention. We're considering a donation from home. How can they partner together? You know, let's bring some continuity with them. Community education and a shelter playground. You know, again, shelter playground. You know, grants. So, I mean, I think there's another example of providing a service for our city.
But are you saying
Government.
fully give them the full amount or not home?
No, but even with them, looking at, you know, they were requesting $10,000, and when I look at their items of what they want money to help support is shelter essentials and 24-hour crisis line and intervention. So, I mean, I think it's, I look at these as individuals. I think it's very difficult to go, we're going to do a 50% cut across the board or 75% cut or
I agree
anything
with
like
you
that.
there. But again, if we're going to try to get the budget set up with the things that we really want or need for operating the city of McMinnville, this is probably the last thing we need to do.
I completely agree with that. I just think there are some that I feel like, you know, that are probably
If there's some,
even looking at the merits of it, of each one of these. I mean, I feel like there's merits, and if there's, you know, if there's additional funding, but I think on the merits, and then if we go and let's say, you know, let's say we come up with $200,000 of merit. And then we say, well, actually, we only have 150,000. Then we come back in and we decide where to cut. Or, you know, you could go through and say, oh, we've got $250,000 to play with. That's a terrible word, to budget for this.
Yeah.
And we can figure out where additional money can go. But I think, you know, I'm trying to find ways to look across the board about the merits from the day on their own.
I'm not for doing a percentage either. I'd rather do it individually and see. Well, again, a lot of it depends upon.
It is. Doing a percentage, I think, opens you up. But I guess maybe the only reason in trying to be fair, or maybe it opens you up to less criticism. If you do it individually, you're going to get more. You're going to get, you know, there's going to be a lot of crying foul. You know,
I'm okay with
but
that.
You picked me, but you didn't pick him.
yeah. But
And I
that's
think
not
that's,
necessarily the right reason to do it. I just, you know, it's difficult.
I mean, I think this is an opportunity for reform. We have a major need in our budget to fund our employees. And yeah, this is an opportunity for us to say, anybody that comes and asks for money, that we're not going to give it to them. There has to be some link to, you know, not just providing for our citizens, but what's the link for the city government? Why are taxpayers paying taxes, then we're giving out donations? I mean, I think if they can go to an individual and ask for a donation, and that's the typical way of funding, that's the way it probably should be funded. And I keep coming back to Holly knows I'm passionate about our program and I give every year. But I feel like that's a good example of like, that needs to be community raised in my mind. Not just because it's a good organization, but it doesn't reduce the burden of city government.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Well, there's a lot of things that don't reduce, I mean, the library doesn't reduce the burden on the city, but there's a need for it. And, you know, I feel obligated to do some things for things, people like that. So I don't think that's the whole criteria is, you know, if you didn't do it with the city, you have to do it. Be on the hook for it. So I think there's more to it than just, you know, providing a service that we would, I mean, we could stop paying the extra for the library over the maintenance and effort, and it still wouldn't affect the city. It affects some of the taxpayers of the city.
You bring a very good point. You bring a very good point about the library. And I mean, and so is there, are we going to continue this growing expense and give out people's money? Why don't we look at, if we could take $250,000 off the tax, off of our budget, can we do it, reduce taxes? And say, hey, we're reducing taxes so you guys can give more money to these community organizations. I mean, how much is a, you know, refund? It doesn't have to be that much of across 13,000 people.
It's not.
But I mean, that's the reality of it.
Well, as far as the library goes, why are we any less obligated to fund a library than we are the Milner Center?
Well, that's,
I mean, they're both public. You know, I mean, so,
public betterment.
yes.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, I don't want the only criteria be, you know, that if you guys weren't doing it, it would affect us in the city. You know, and you're right, the special games is not something we'd end up doing probably if they didn't do it. But again, there's the need there for doing that kind of thing. Now, whether we think it's $10,000 worth of need, that's something else. I think there's a lot of places to be whittling here. I really do. But again, we can sit here and have these philosophical arguments all day long, and let's see where we're going to need. Let's see how philosophical it gets when we get down to the final budget.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on these, but I also feel like, you know, there's cash flow, their amount of cash they have in reserves. You know, so even something that is, you know, we've traditionally funded, you know, like the food bank, they're not asking for a lot, but they've gotten a significant amount.
You know, they got 110 grand in the bank.
So
I was stunned when I saw that number for Meals on Wheels.
I think,
$250,000.
I think we talked about that last year. Somebody that had a lot.
We did, and one of the things that I brought up anyway was, you know, 5 years ago, they didn't have the back to the strip thing, and they made $55,000 and got what, 8,000 pounds of food or something got off amount. And I questioned last year about whether we need to continue on, you know, either funding them or reducing the funding or whatever.
I mean, if you know, you want to have another perspective on the funds, if we reduce, let's say we reduce it down to $200,000, there's $300,000 more dollars for street paving and sidewalks. That's something that every taxpayer will get a benefit from. They can get out and drive more. So, and I think our employees. So I feel like, yes, I've been a proponent of delaying this, so we're not in the moment saying, yeah, you're worthy of this. But I feel like we really need to take a hard, fast look, and maybe there's some in here that don't provide the service to the city, but they wouldn't last without it. But there are just some things in here that their budget could change. They could do more fundraising. You know, one organization had $1,500 in community donations. They've got $27,000 cash on hand. They're asking us for $21,000. And they have a rent of $3,600, but I don't understand. And I wish I'd asked this when they're here, why they need a facility. This is Caring Hearts United. I mean, I think it's a wonderful organization. We did the Super Bowl chili cook-off.
But the lady was stunned that it was that much, you know, she said,
Yeah.
we only asked you for $10,000. I said, no, it's
Seven.
seven now.
But again, this is a good example. I don't think the city should be funding this. I don't. I mean, if we wanted to do something, let's give them a match, you know, for up to $1,000. And so they'll raise their community donations from 1,500 to 2,500, and then they've got 3,500. But I mean, if you're running a nonprofit and if you're surviving on government funds, $1,500, that doesn't tell me that the community's really supporting this organization. So I hate it, but to say these things, but I'm looking at how can we get, they were asking for 7, and if we turn them down there $7,000 more, that's that's another strip of sidewalk that's in front of one person's house. That we can, so I'm thinking about what our citizens want. What is the purpose of our taxpayer dollars? Streets, sidewalks, staff and our employees. I feel like they need to work on their donations, their requests, and really try to find the money there. So yeah, there was a lot of them that I think that we should be turning down. And I'm sorry, but that's.
I mean, I can't really disagree. I mean, because like I said, it's always, I've always had that thought about.
And I think now's the time to do it. It really is. Foundation for Education Progress in Warren County. I think they're doing an amazing job. I mean, they've got more demand and jobs. They've got $171,000 cash on hand. I'm sure they'll spend a lot of it. I think they only spent $50,000 last year.
Which one are we on?
Foundation for Education in Warren County.
Oh,
They spent last year, well, they earned 50, they brought in 58,394. And they dispersed $42,000 last year. They have 172 pretty much at the end of the year. I don't think we should be giving them money. I think they're amazing. I think they're a great organization, but I don't think we should give them any money this year. I can tell you others that I feel the same way as that.
I was just looking at this Caring Hearts United. This lady that supposedly wrote up this thing, that's their whole year's budget. I just looked at.
They made a mistake on that.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't make a mistake, but the new person that did it wrote it up.
Yeah, because last year they spent around a little less than $21,000 last year, 20,000.
yeah, that's a tough one. She didn't realize why she was wrapping that a little bit.
Either that or she said, let's
No.
go big. Maybe they'll fund all of it.
No, she wrote it. I mean, it's there. They didn't ask for 21,545. They asked for rent, utilities, X number of dollars, fundraising fees. I'm not sure what
Does all that add up to that?
Yeah.
Does it?
And then to fund 6 months of their care basket thing was $15,000. The rest of it was just small change except for the rent and utilities.
I did have a couple of organizations when they brought their packets by, so we really didn't know what to ask for, so we should put a bunch of stuff in there, and I thought, okay, probably should be saying that out loud, so.
Yeah.
I think there is the pressure from going to the county, see what the county's doing, and it's kind of understood that the city does more, and maybe sometimes they historically just give you what you ask for, so I wonder if that is feeding into some of these.
And the county looking at 400,000 is kind of misleading because they never put in the fire departments in there before and things like that. I mean, 2 years ago, there was absolutely no money for fire departments. I think last year they gave them $5,000 a piece. Now they're giving them 11,000 or something like that.
Plus, what is their total budget?
Yeah, their
Yeah.
total budget is 3 times ours,
Yeah,
but.
so
they-
it's not,
And I
an
said
apples
something the
to
other day
apples.
about that, I thought that they're giving us under 100,000, and 3 years ago it was. It was under $100,000, and they've kicked up some, here and there, and now the people have found out there's a trough out there, and they're coming to,
if I could say one thing, I was at a meeting, I feel like it was about a year ago, because I knew exactly how much we had allocated to nonprofits when someone just asked me in the middle of this meeting at Upper Cumberland Development. He stopped the meeting and said, Nolan, what does McMinnville allocate to nonprofits? I said 400,000. And everyone was just stunned. And he said, who wants to move to McMinnville and start a nonprofit? And everybody was just amazed that we would allocate that much money to nonprofits.
well, that's misleading too, because 60 to 70,000, that is the TDB, which is a pass-through. It doesn't come out of the budget. So, it's actually 330,000.
I think they would still be stunned. Yeah.
So, I don't think the TDB should be in there because it's not coming out of the general fund.
It's in here.
Um,
What?
They don't have a packet request, but.
Yeah, I know, but
actual
I'm looking at,
budget.
I'm looking at the line item.
Tourism development or.
Okay, 70,000. Right here, 771.
That's on the spreadsheet, it's actually a formula that copies what we budget for revenue, so it's actually more than that. It's just.
But
whatever
well,
we-
in this total right here, so we have 508, so 509 essentially, and take $70,000 off 509. And we're still looking at
Then you've got,
$440,000.
like I said, Caring Arts United putting in 21,000 when it should be 7,000 or 8,000. I mean, the ask this year is not that much what we gave last year. Well, I take that back, it is too, because if you take out the TDB, it's still a good bit over what we had last year.
And we
I
had
mean, I don't
TDB
feel
in there
very
last year.
I don't feel very disposed to give Birchville Clinic any money. That one just doesn't. I mean, you can go to a hospital and not have to pay a penny.
I've seen it done a lot of times.
I mean,
Well, their point is that relieves some of that burden on the hospital, but still, even if that's whatever you think about that, I can't really,
That's not the
Can't
burden
really
of
see
the citizen of McMinnville,
no.
city of McMinnville. That's a whole other industry issue that they need to work on.
they've got a pretty good bit of money in the bank too.
Yeah, they had 100 grand, if I remember.
Education, Foundation for Education, Progress in Warren County, Books from Birth. I think this was done by the school system. This was done by Rotary. This has been kicked around McMinnville a number of times and it landed with us. And I think it's a wonderful program but I think citizens should be donating directly to it to fund this program.
What about kids?
Way to put tough and see.
I'm telling
Why do you think I haven't brought that one up yet? I mean, what do you think?
That one does affect whether, whether our policemen have to go out and get these kids.
Well, and I agree with that. And I agree with, the fact that there are organizations that are serving our kids besides the Milner Center, such as Hamilton Street, that is not asking for funds, that does a ton of fundraising on their own. I have not looked to see what their fundraising capability
Their
is.
current
but-
assets are $241,000 cash in the bank.
I mean,
Jeez.
by your reasoning so far,
None this year. And we're not saying that this doesn't come up next year, that we don't, but this year we got other priorities. And first of all, it's our employees. Second is getting those employees out
helping build sidewalks and repaving roads. That comes down to the basic part of municipal government. So if they got that much in the bank, I just don't see a need this year. I mean, I'll go help with the Paddle Fest and I'll go, donate some money. I've written grants for them in the past.
You can blame me, slash and burn, but I don't
No,
see,
no,
I don't
wait,
see a
no.
justification.
Yeah, I didn't had looked at his review since we're here, but I didn't want to say. They get that kind of money in the bank.
I mean, I've got a list, pretty big stack here, Rory, that I've got zero written on. Another one is Habitat for Humanity. I think we work with them on lots. That's how we can help them. They've got $170,000. Takes $90,000 to build a house. They get $10,000 short. They can go fundraise and say, hey, we got $10,000 more to spend on this house. Let's go ask our citizens. But lots is the way we can help them, and it's a good use of the taxpayers' dollars. What else we can do with a lot?
Well, we haven't given it any last 2 or 3 years because we didn't have any, but it looks like we probably are going to have some this year.
We may.
It depends on whether they, whether we have them this year or in the next 3 years, depending upon when they have to go through the tax sale, unless the people
Yeah.
just voluntarily sign them over.
The online tax sale this year resulted in all of the parcels selling, whereas whenever they sell them in person, there was always a few that never got sold.
Right.
So I think we may see a decline on,
On
yeah, because people can log in from wherever and they'll bid the minimum from out of state just to pay it up and have the taxes paid, and we would never recover that lot. So if that's the trend, the county's gonna continue, or Myra's gonna continue, the lots may be coming strictly from within the city or demoed properties or.
Got 11 right here. That zero. That includes sister cities and the one UCDD. That I don't think any people say we're not being fair. We don't give money to 11. I think that's more than thinking through it. And but I don't feel comfortable giving just a little bit of money, because that to me is harder than saying you've got money in the bank. And we don't even have to say that, just not this year. Please come back next year and we'll reconsider your ask. But none of these 11 are going to have a problem surviving over the next year and providing their services and doing what they need to do. None of them.
Which ones did you?
And I'm suggesting, well, there's that one UCDD. You said no.
No, you can't do that. It's required.
Well, no, there's 2 of them.
I know, and they're both required.
Okay. Well,
One's UCDD, one's UCHRA.
oh, okay. Okay, yes.
That's the state law, of course.
Yeah, well, okay, so sister cities is crossed off.
Yeah.
Special games. Wait a minute, let me find everything here. Okay. Habitat for Humanity. Kids and community. Foundation for Education, Books for Both.
Right. and books.
Meals on Wheels. Home delivery. Meals on Wheels.
I got it.
Barshaba Springs Medical Clinic. Caring Hearts United. Food Bank. And then Foundation for Educational Progress in Warren County.
That's a brag.
Right.
Correct. So there's two of them. There's Books and Birth. And then there's
Right. Brag.
scholarships.
They're two separate things.
Those are the ones that I got down there that's 10 of them, Steve. That includes sister cities, so 9. But you made the mention of like, how's this gonna go over? Cut 9. I mean, if we don't give those that had plenty of cash, and
So read off those.
so sister cities, McMinnville Special Games, Habitat, Kids of the Community, Meals on Wheels, Worship Springs, Caring Hearts United, Warren County Food Bank, BRAC Scholarships, BRAC Books and Birth. They will survive. They will find donations. They will go. And there's some of them in there that need to go out and get more community support because they're doing a lot of good, but they're utilizing the generosity of the city government, and I don't really feel like I've got the right to decide where taxpayer money goes on donations.
So this is based on their service to the community. It's based on their current assets, and it's based on their ability to raise funds. Say those 3 things.
Service to the city.
I don't know, maybe we should leave that one out. Just do the other 2.
Service of the city, what other 2 did you say?
Their ability to raise funds and their current assets.
Yeah, I mean, and the ability to raise funds to me is almost twofold. I mean, Habitat has that $50,000 that they raised through Restore. Kudos. I mean, that's great. But if you're only raising, and it's almost the opposite, if you're only raising $1,500, that to me is a sign that maybe the community is not on board with this. So I feel
Or that
like
you're not
almost
working
there,
at
when
it.
you say ability to raise funds, I'm almost looking at their inability to raise funds as a red flag.
I mean, their potential, let's say that.
I think some of the tougher ones are Senior Center, Hall, Black History Museum, Young Men United. Young Men United, I mean, you want to talk about one that they have $20,000 in the bank. 15 of it is a grant. They got $5 grand. They don't have funds. So I think that to me is a little bit different of a different thing, but I also feel like, man, that gym floor, that's a great project for Rotary. It's $6,000, you write a $3,000 grant, the Rotary matches that, and that's quick. That's done. Rotary might not even worry about writing the grant. Just those kind of things to me, I feel like the community needs to do and build. But utilities operation, $3,000. They're asking for 17. I mean, I think that's a worthy donation because it keeps them going, keeps them operational, and they need that money. The other things, I would hope that they could find somebody in the community to run that project. So that's tough for me, but at the same time, helping them survive.
Or maybe not full amount of some of those. Not these. I don't disagree with you on that stuff.
Right. You look at the Black History Museum, they're doing a tourism, they're part of tourism. They need some money for advertising. I think the other things need to come through donations and supply. So instead of 17, looking at 4. Home, I already mentioned them. They want 19 their operational cost is the winter shelter costs, and I think that's, to me, $5,000. I think those are things that I can swallow to say, I'm okay with that kind of expense. I don't know where I'm at with the senior center. What's the senior center? It's $30,000 for the senior center. You got
They by far affect the most people of any of these. I'm the city's representative on their board, but I'm certainly not going to let that influence the way I vote. But like I said, they affect more than anybody else that's out there.
Well, except for maybe Meals on Wheels.
No. Meals on Wheels, she said they did 200 people. Atlanta's got over 900 people that she does work with. She has 900 people that they don't all come out there at the same time, but they've got 900 people on their rolls. She feeds 200 plus every Wednesday. Now she's talking about upping that to 3 to 4 days a week.
And it's
And they
also
do
the
charge
service
for-
and
for
the
them.
services that they're doing, the telehealth and the access. They have educational programs every week.
They've got exercise programs.
Exercise. I mean, it's,
Yes,
they could go
Atlanta
to
runs
Silver
it well.
Sneakers at the Milner Center. But we don't have, it's a little intimidating, I think, for a senior to go to a place that's a fitness place. And so I understand why a lot of seniors do it. And I get a lot of my patients going over there to do it.
But she's, of the people they've had running it since I've been living in Macmillan, she is by far and away the best organizer. I mean, she went and got certified in this thing. She did my Medicare stuff about whether I should, what medical thing I should go to. She plugged the formula in and she had about 15 minutes.
Yeah, she does a good job.
I mean, I'll have to say, she impresses me every day, and she works 24/7.
She has to.
She doesn't have any downtime.
Well, and I think the other thing too for me is, we looked at the other thing is they have $50,000 in gifts and donations. I mean, the community wants this program to be here. They've got money from grants. They're doing a lot of legwork. And I mean, these are all things that don't necessarily make me like, this is more valuable than somebody else, but what is their dependence on, on it. And so, I mean, I think that's one where I feel like it's an extension of, to me, I almost look at this as an extension of the Milner Center, because they are providing these services.
I even looked at it one time when they were having problems with their management, and everything, about talking to them about rolling it into the civic center, because we have all the property, they could liquidate out there and fold it right in, but came to that. And Atlanta got hired. A lot of that went away.
I mentioned families in crisis. I feel like you're talking about something that's necessary in our community, necessary evil, unfortunately. They're a blessing for that. They're asking $10,000. I look at $6,000. The homeless prevention, community education, shelter playground. I just don't think those are things that the city needs to be paying for, because we're putting money into those in other places. And I think there's opportunities for community organizations to help. Shelter essentials and 24-hour crisis line, $6,000. These are making cuts to even some of the organizations that are. The only other one that I don't think we've talked about, well, two of them. One, and I think these are more tied to the city than any others, is Main Street McMinnville and the chamber.
I'd like to back out some out of the chamber.
I don't disagree with that. And I mean, even with Main Street McMinnville, I'm kind of curious about, you know, I mean, I think I asked the other day about, you know, what, you know, is Main Street downtown Main Street, is that all the bands there, are they all sponsored? You know, what are we looking at? So they want 45,000.
That's 5 over what they've been getting. I'll have to say, and I've been following them very closely after the debacle they had last year, and the year before that, the year before that. And they seem to have kind of righted their ship. I go to their meetings almost every time. And they are making progress in doing things. That, you know, I'm just reporting to you what I've seen over there. Not sure why they didn't have somebody here tonight. She did call me and say that she was going to be out of town at second Raven was going to be out of town, and so Raven was out of town. The other girl was at a seminar, the Main Street director now, Jennifer. And she said, I will try to get Mary Dawn or somebody else to come up here. And obviously that didn't happen, but I'm not sure that I want to give them 45 instead of the 40, but
And they've got $42,000 in cash in the bank, and they've got 26.5 in other current assets.
most of that 42,000 in the bank is money we gave them last year when they didn't have a director, and we gave them the money. And
So
There's no
it seems to me
director
that we
on
could go down, 25% on this year. And, and I don't see a whole lot of I don't see any line item for donation. Here we go. There's nothing under donations. They get $42,000 in government aid, and that's from us.
they have memberships, and I don't know how much is that broken out on.
Membership dues, $335. Fundraising events, $13,000.
That membership thing is way, way low. I mean, I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just saying that they should have more memberships than that. Of course, that may have been last year's numbers, and they were so screwed up last year. It's a wonder anybody even cared.
And so, I'd take them down to 33,750. 25% cut. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to manage with that much cash in the bank. So, I mean, I make a cut to everybody almost. And then I don't chamber. And then being a member, I do feel like us being a member is an appropriate thing. I think it does kind of seem like a double standard to kind of give the same amount and then give a membership on top, but I do see the difference. And they get $111,000 in dues, $248,000 in government funding. There is some debt they're working on. I know they reconciled that and went under a better interest rate this past year. $147,000 in cash at the end of the year. Last year.
Who's that?
Chamber. They brought in last year receipts 417, disbursements last year 296. I don't know how to look at what we're doing with TDB and not, dividing and conquering and the missions of both of those. But, the purpose of the chamber is to serve the chamber membership. And I think membership is an important part that they need to focus on. Is retirement focused on all of their membership. And that's really who they need to be appealing to. And honestly, if we're gonna have the TDB, the chamber is helpful in this. People go in, it's our tourism, it's our visitors guest station, but
What they finally decided last year about further dividing what it was, if I remember correctly, that they were gonna let the chamber still handle like the magazine that he had and the magazines and things that they put in at the interstate rest stops, all that dredgery type work that the TDB was looking on a little bit higher level of things to do. And I don't know if everything in there falls under that category. Because I'm thousands. I question that $30,000. Inbound marketing, social media, email marketing. All of those things tend to tell me it's free.
well, whether you have somebody that's funding that program, you're outsourcing that program.
Well, I don't know what it means. It needs to be explained to me what incoming marketing is. Social media is free. Email marketing, virtually free. Time. SEO. You have any idea what SEO means?
Search engine optimization.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it sounds, yeah, it makes sense in that.
So it's optimizing, hoping that when people search, they will find.
Find it, yeah.
Yeah,
They have a good pathway.
yeah.
Okay. All of that is
It sounds like
$30,000.
you kind of made that up. Though.
I had it on the tip of my tongue and I'm like, yes, I remembered.
I'm glad I got somebody under 40 to explain this.
I am 46, by the way.
Okay, all right, under 50. And I really didn't mean that.
I mean, how much of this, needs to be deferred to the TDB? Do we need to ask their opinion on what the city should be supporting?
What about the TDB?
Well,
General.
what about,
There's been some talk about not having it.
talked to anybody that said that, but I think they've had a lot of things that they wanted to do, they couldn't do because of COVID. That they're starting to do. Now, they've got a ton of money in the bank. They got a 200,000 in the bank. But they're gonna start spending it now. Again, that's another meeting that I go to religiously. I think that they've got a direction now. When they had Mandy in there, then they had Sarah in there, then they had this, they had that. It got a little bit off tracks. But I think they have found their footing and I think they're going after it. They got people like Christy Ross on there.
Who's chairman of Christie?
No,
Sarah.
Sarah's the chairman, but they've got, what's her name? Alan Owens. Daniel Owens' wife is the.
Darren.
Darren. Owens is the part-time person to do that. She had time enough out of her schedule. They had cut her back out at Motlow. And so they hired her to do the books, do the running around, doing the administrative work, if you will.
And she's the current past president of the Chamber of Commerce.
It's interesting to me that there's chamber initiatives and there's tourism initiatives. And I feel like there's a place that, you know, are those tourism initiatives still appropriate for the city to be doing through the chamber? Or do they go to the tourism TDB? Or vice versa, that's not gonna be what they're doing. And, you know, do we support those? And these chamber initiatives, I feel like should be more focused on the membership and paying for it. You know, an entrance door for the IDV, that's a real estate type of issue. That's how they were able to maintain the IDB as a renter, leasing there versus going somewhere else. So I could skin it both ways, but
Let me talk to the TDB and see if there's anything in this thing that the chamber is doing that they feel like they should be doing it there. Again, we told them last year that there had to be a separation, and they came up with,
He just mentioned something tonight about that, something that Don did about what they were doing. It was like, and you questioned him on it. Can't remember what, I don't remember what he said now. But you're like,
well, that was what I was asking for, is where the dividing line is.
right,
And most of the way we were talking about last year is this big separation was what they were going to do was to do the grunt work of printing the magazine, distributing paperwork and things to the I-40 and I-24 welcome stations, those types of things. You know, it was going to be stuff they had done and pretty well had some expertise in it. Advertising for those magazines, that kind of stuff. But I don't know if all of that $50,000, I just don't have a feel for 5,000, that it's all, some of it could be done by the TDB. Again, I don't know, this 30,000, which is half of, more than half, is this inbound marketing, social media, email marketing. I don't know exactly what all that entails, but it sounds like a lot of money for things that you're doing over the internet.
this is a lot of expense for an operation that does not have a lot of employees. It's a lot of stuff for maintain, and the board works very hard. The chamber
or tourism.
chamber. I mean, we're $105,000, and of course, you know, every time you mention the rack, like, I went into 3 different music stores in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was there for my grandmother's birthday last week, and they have 1 rack of sheet music, and most of it's not even sheet music. It's like guitar 101, piano 101. And that's it, because it's all online. And so I do get when people walk in, you want to be able to hand them something and hand them material. But I just don't have a hard time with buying another rack. I mean, I know it's $1,500, but man, that gets two more levels of sidewalk in front of somebody's house.
That's something that they have put in there for the last 3 or 4 years. They wanted to put a rack outside, you know, weatherproof type thing, and we knocked it out several times.
And I mean, if we want to cut in and look into the finances like we were these others, you know, I mean, this is a lot different than the COVID years, and COVID years were very tough. We had people furlough, you know, the staff at the time, including our mayor's spouse, I mean, just did an amazing job with the limited time they had. But at this stage, you know, they are in a much better position to try to be a little bit more efficient with funds. And so I'm just like Main Street McMinnville. I mean, at the very least, if I was going to make a recommendation tonight, I'd say take 25% off the top, make them more efficient. You look at an organization that I have not recommended taking is McMinnville Warren County Senior Center. But how do you take anything off the top? They're bare bones. They use every penny they get. I think there's some efficiency that could be done with the chamber, so that, you know, that's kind of where I would be right now. You know, putting that, you know, 75. 76,000 and change, 25%. But if that's the case, and we give them 75%, that puts us just over $210,000 in donations, not including the TDB.
So what all are required? The library, Upper Cumberland,
UCHRA, UCDD. But those are total $5,000.
those are what?
Those two total are $5,000. UCDD, UCHRA.
In the library, we've been given, like, or not been, but last year we gave 14 over what our maintenance spent.
Yeah, they wanted to buy computers or something. He said they leveraged that into a grant and replaced all their computers.
So the supplemental services is what we're paying on that 28.95 on the UCHRA and UCDD.
Yeah,
28. Okay.
one is 28.95, the other one is 21 or 22.
I think it's the same price.
No.
That one $1 difference.
Yeah, one is 28.95, 48, and the other one's 28.95. 48 cents difference.
So adding all those up, taking the ones that this is all my recommendation. You got all these, and this is cutting it down to kind of bare bones that, you know, I know if we get in there and you guys feel like we got tons of money that we find that we don't want to put in the streets and sidewalks, we can come back and revisit it. I think that's important not to announce any of this until we've made a final decision, but this gets us to taking the 25% off the funding senior center, funding Magnus Library, UCHRA, UCDD, 25% cuts on Main Street, McMinnville, and the chamber. Warren County Rescue Squad fully funded because of the insurance. And then you've got Home, Black History Museum, Young Men United, and Families in Crisis, all of those looking at what needs for operational costs. And that totals it up to $220,000, $614. 220, 614. That's still a lot of money. But I feel good about this. I feel like that recommendation helps support organizations that need it, that are bare bones or that have limited cash, and really need the support. They don't have as much and maybe we're really ingrained and tied in this, and the other thing is ingrained and tied in the city in certain ways, providing services. But that, to me, I feel good about that because now we're looking at, yeah, we got money for these other things. We're gonna increase street paving. We're gonna hire employees. We're gonna keep our employees. That makes hiring jobs, directors' jobs more effective, more efficient. Maybe we can get a janitor over the Millers. I mean, those are the other things. I mean,
I want to see what the numbers are before we make any big hard and fast things. And I agree with you that we need
Well,
to
why
cut
don't we
it.
just take that recommendation and table it for now, but keep all that. Everything you just,
Yeah, there's no motion
recommended.
made. Yeah,
No,
so, you know,
but make sure you got all that down.
can we coordinate to send out a copy to
to us
Mhm.
on that. Spend a minute to jot it down real quick. Or I can, one of the.
We have it on tape also.
I have the grand total and I have the ones that have been recommended to go down to zero, but if we could get the figures on the
I
25%.
can give you those real quick. and we're done.
I can email out the spreadsheet I have is 2019, 2020 approved all the way up through what's been requested this year. And then I've got a separate column that says approved, but we could call that
Recommended.
recommended.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys. I hate to be the,
No, I look, but you know how I feel. I'm just,
and that has helped me because, you know, special games. I mean,
philosophically, it's the way it should be. I mean, it's just hard to get there. If you're willing to do it, I'm willing to do it.
I'll, you know, I think this is objective, and I think there's enough over here in this list that it makes a statement that we weren't just picking you because you didn't have a good operation and you didn't have this. We're picking you because you don't need it this year. And these things.
What do you think, Everett? I've got mixed emotions. I agree with you that we need to cut it back. I don't know if we need to cut it back that much, but again, I want to see what we've got in our total budget before I make any big decisions.
Okay. You want a motion for adjournment?
Yes,
So moved.
okay. We're all agreed. Without me
So
even
that was awesome. I mean, that could very well, I mean, we could be in the paper already, just about talking about what we talked about so far.
Sure.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Blame me.
She wasn't present.